Hey, what's going on, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Just My Opinion for my dear mama. Recap and review for episode 1 titled Panther Power. 17-year-old Tupac navigates school, poverty, and family, dreaming of using poetry and music to spread the message of his mother, Black Panther activist Afeni Shakur. Haunted by her past, Afeni fears it will affect Tupac's promising future. Guys, this is a new 5-part documentary series that is premiering on FX in the following days on Hulu, April 21st, 2023. And like I said, I'm going to be recapping episode 1 and throughout the following weeks, recap episodes 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I'm also trying to give you a complete review of the whole entire series or what I thought in a non-spoilery fashion. But as far as this episode right here, I am going to spoil it up, down, left, right, in, and out. As if you've already seen it, you have been warned. And if this is your first time finding me and you happen to like this video and want to see my full coverage of this documentary series, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe, leave a comment, and help me reach that next milestone of 50,000 subscribers. But I will say, guys, I really did enjoy the first episode of this documentary series. I pretty much loved it. And one being the title of the episode, Panther Power. If you see this first episode or just read the synopsis of the whole show, you would assume that it's about Tupac Shakur, his mother, Afeni Shakur, but also a third character, the Black Panther Party themselves. Now, this first episode, Panther Party, is not a deep dive into all the ins and outs of the Black Panther Party, but it does highlight on a few important points that helped mold Afeni Shakur, Tupac's mother, that helped mold him himself, and it is very eye-opening. So I really do like the way the screen time is split between those three main characters. Again, Tupac, his mother, Afeni, and the Black Panther Party. And if you're alive today, even if you're not a music expert connoisseur, and I'm not myself, you've heard of Tupac. A lot of people consider him the best rapper of all time, or at least one of the best. And I'm not going to argue with anyone that says that. But there are a number of aspects of his life that have not been put out in the general public. Pretty sure you can find it if you actually researched it. But even me growing up as an older upper 30s male, I knew all about Tupac when I was in junior high and elementary school, heard about him all of my life, but I did not know all of these intricate details about his life that this documentary is presenting to you. But I really did like this first episode, and I'm really excited to talk about it because early on, I'm just getting all these perspectives that I've never heard before from members of his family. 2 of his cousins that were older just saying, hey, I remember Tupac before any of you guys did. He was my little cousin. I was 8 years older than him, and he always wanted to follow me around. And I was like, hey, man, you can't follow me around. I'm about to go do crime. But then they just started telling stories about when he got a little older and the first time that he played the record Dear Mama, one of Tupac's greatest hits that ever came out in his music career. And I remember hearing this story of Tupac shooting a police in self-defense and getting away with it. And that's how this episode starts. This man was in his own world, in his own universe, and just had his own way of thinking. And I like the way that was explained in the very beginning of this documentary, this first episode, of just like, okay, hey, you just shot somebody. It's a crowded room. Everybody's partying, but you were just concentrated with all of these cops finna kick down the door, and you want to play Dear Mama while all of this chaos is going on. That is not normal. And that is just a small aspect of his life, a small segment, when you just realize that this man was unlike anybody else. And I think that's just a great way to start the documentary. And of course, guys, this is real. You can look it up. Inside the story of Tupac's 1993 shootout with off-duty police officers and how he got away with it. On Halloween 1993, Tupac Shakur tried to stop 2 white off-duty cops from harassing a black driver in Atlanta. But when one of them pulled his gun, Tupac shot first in self-defense. And the reason why that just stands out to me, and I remember hearing this growing up, and like, what's going on, is that nobody that I know today, and there's really not that many people out there that will have the balls, that will have the kahunas, that will have the testicular fortitude to pull something off like this. Police brutality has been here in America since its inception, and we are sick of it. Some people stand up and rise and fight back. Some people don't and are docile and always forgiving. But Tupac was not one of those people. And that's how this first episode started off, just showing how bold and courageous that he really was. No one would do this, but Tupac Shakur would do that. And this first episode is kind of telling you how his origin story started, how he was molded by the Black Panther Party and all of his peers, especially his mother, to create the man that we know and love today that's unfortunately not here anymore. And Tupac was a man to where if George Floyd was being choked out in front of him, he would step up and do something. He would step up and try to defend that man and not just record. And I don't mean to say that throwing any shade to anybody that was there during that tragic day. I don't know what I would have done in that situation. So no judgment all the way over here with me in my room at my keyboard. That would be unfair completely. But I'm just saying, it just goes to show that this man right here would not bow down. He will defend his people. He really cares about black people. And I love the way they started this documentary out with this story. I also love all the important figures that were able to give their testimony of their interactions with Tupac. And I got the sense of everybody in this first episode that they could not wait to get everything off of their chest. I mean, they've been holding this back for decades, 10, 20, 30 years at that, and they're just finally happy that they're able to give their side of the story, their perspective. We have people like Mike Tyson, Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, Eminem, all of these wonderful, powerful artists that have blessed us with their entertainment talent throughout the years, signing off on Tupac. We already knew he was one of the greatest, but it's still nice to see them signing off on this line with the approval of Tupac. And I really did like that. I thought that was a great touch for the first episode as well. I mean, I like the way that they're describing him as a myth builder, a storyteller. Chop Master Jay called him a Zen master. And if you really do listen to his lyrics, I mean, that is a nice assessment to attach to the man. I mean, he was a poetic genius. And if you did not know anything about Tupac, you will, especially watching this first episode. And I like how honest it was too. This does not just focus on Tupac, it focuses on his mother, Afeni, as well. And we get to know her sister, Glow, as well. And they didn't always have the best relationship. Glow said that Afeni got on her nerve and kind of drove her up a wall. And that's fair. And Afeni, who is not here with us anymore, she passed away in 2016. She wanted the story told right. And that's what her older sister, Glow, is doing. Just like, hey, she got on my nerve. I didn't like her when she was doing this and doing that. It really did make me uncomfortable, but she did open my eyes to a number of things. And I really like the way this first episode of the documentary bounced back and forth between Tupac, Afeni, and the Black Panther Party. Picks up when she's 11 years old, coming from North Carolina to New York. Now, I remember when I was a little kid seeing snippets and little clips here and there of Tupac, of him getting arrested, him being in court, and him being in jail. But I've never seen this much footage before. I'm just kind of wondering to myself, where did all of this come from? Now, this series is being directed by Allen Hughes, and I'm a big fan of his work. He did Menace to Society. He also did The Book of Eli that came out over a decade ago with Denzel Washington, and he's all over this thing, doing a great job with the producing, writing, directing, editing, all of that. I loved it all. And as he's showing us Tupac in 1995 in jail, and they're just going back to the origins of his name. What is your name, sir? It is Tupac Amaru Shakur. And they get into where that came from, and I really like all the details. And Tupac Amaru was an Inca name. And the first Tupac Amaru was the last indigenous Inca chief that was killed and martyred by the Spanish conquistadors who invaded the South America area known as Peru. I did not know all of this, but this is very insightful. She wanted to give him that name, and you have to understand what type of woman Afeni Shakur was. I mean, she didn't give a crap. She really wanted to instill an amount of power in her son and let her know that African Americans are not the only group of people around that all of this racism and brutality is happening to. Now, I will say the only thing that I wish I had more information about while watching this is who was the actress, who was the performer that provided the voice for Afeni Shakur. She did pass away in 2016, and we don't know. We got a lot of dialogue from a number of real life people during this first episode, but we hear his mother's voice in the background, but of course she's not here. Now, towards the end of the episode, they actually do show her talking, but I went over to IMDb to try to get her actual name, and I couldn't find it, and I did not see it in the credits as well. I may have overlooked it. If you are aware of that information, please respectfully let me know in the comment section, but maybe they will reveal that information later on in the series. But I will say she did a phenomenal job in this. She really did bring a lot of weight to this first episode in the documentary with powerful words, with her cadence, with her tone of voice. She was very, very powerful. She goes on to explain that Tupac was conceived during the worst parts of her time when she was in trial and going through all the trials and tribulations of the Black Panther Party. And that is one criticism that I will say about this first episode is it makes you assume that you already know the story of Afeni Shakur or the Black Panther Party. If you have never heard of them before, you will have questions. But again, this is the first episode, and maybe all of that information will be detailed later on. But at one point in this documentary, they did shine a lot of light onto all of the internal demons that Afeni was going through, how she was addicted to drugs, and how the Black Panther Party fell, through inside beef and sabotage, COINTELPRO from the FBI, etc. If you don't know any of that, a lot of this could fly over your head or through one ear and out the other. And this is information that's not necessarily taught in schools. And I feel like I'm gonna say this for the third time. Again, they may reveal all of this information in future episodes. But I like the way they got kind of into her origin as well, kind of starting off in 1958 in New York City. She was from North Carolina, but moved to New York and wanted to do better for herself. She was going through a lot of colorisms, people calling her bald-headed, and she just did not want to accept the fact that she did not have all the privileges of her white counterparts, of her white peers. Her sister Glow did, and just like, hey, I'm just happy to be here. But she was like, no, I want more. And if I don't have the beauty, I am going to be the smartest person as possible. She just had that drive. She just had that spirit to be more than what she was, to be not just a product of her environment, but to create her own environment. So just one day when she's watching TV, or I forget exactly how she came across the information, she saw Bobby Seals, one of the co-founders of the Black Panther Party, just doing this thing, and that really resonated with her. She was like, man, I can get down with this right here. They are for the people. They are for Black people. They are for women's rights. They are for gay men, gay women. They are for everybody. And this is a way for me to shine and to develop and grow into the person that I knew God put me on earth to be. And I just love that right there. And again, Tupac is just coming into be. And if he has a mother like that, it just makes so much sense to why he is such a genius mind at only 17 years old. I love just them saying Tupac did not approve and hated racism in any form, shape, and fashion. And I've never seen these interviews before. They have Tupac in 1988. He's 17 years old, a senior. And this guy seems like he is just a genius among men, like he has read every book on the planet. I was not remotely thinking the way this guy was. I mean, he was beyond conscious, as someone said about him in this documentary, in this first episode. He hated racism. The name of his high school was TAM, and he just went on to say that his mother instilled in him and taught him to always analyze the world, always analyze society and the way that you fit in it, and does it make sense or not. And I just can't help but do anything but respect that. And I love it. I mean, this man is 17 years old, but just knows everything. And then it jumps to him in 1995, given his disposition in jail, and them asking, okay, how did you start to get into rap music? And he says, well, he started with poetry. And he was so different. He wore ripped jeans, and he just kind of stood out, wanted to be smart just like his mother. He was in the performing arts, very talented. He was also a ballet dancer, and I had never heard of that before. That was very shocking to me, and I'm just soaking all of this in. But what I also like about this first episode of pretty much every Tupac song that you've heard on the radio, even if you bought the cassette CDs, whatever, is a banger. And there's a good 5 or 6 of them in this first episode. So not only are you learning a lot of information, but you jamming too. And when they have his lyrics, him rapping paid in full in the background, showing you all the video and images, you just hear his voice. But then they show him as a young boy at 17 years old, rapping, performing, and you're like, man, you just eating it all up, and it's just wonderful. Thinking of a master plan. This ain't nothing but sweat inside my hand. And yeah, I'm just jamming left and right. And I can be honest, I've heard these songs all my life, but I have never paid this much attention to the lyrics until now. And I'm just saying, oh my God, where has this been all my life? Where it was for everybody else, I just really wasn't paying attention to it. And I'm only 20 minutes into this documentary so far. And I'm just like, man, thank you so much. Thank you, Allen Hughes. Thank you. You are knocking this out the park. And they just talked about all of his friends and the other artists that was around him. He just had a notebook full of raps and poems in between raps in between poems, with little eyes with water dripping down and all of that. And they've never seen anything like this before. Like, this did not exist in hip hop. There was no Dear Mama. There was no Britney Had a Baby. None of that. This all started before. And so it was just revolutionary. And I will say, to be honest, there was a part of him that kind of reminded me of myself. The reason why I say that is he was such a nice guy when he was younger, and so was I. I mean, just super duper beyond nice. And he just kind of went on telling a story of how he wanted to get at this girl, and he was just a gentleman, you know, always just wanted to cater to her, being super nice, et cetera, et cetera. But she was like, hey man, it's not really working out. You're too nice. I don't like all that. And that changed him, and he was like really hurt. And I think a lot of men have gone through that, or at least I have, and I was able to resonate with him there, because I remember being told that when I was young, like, oh, you too nice. I kind of like this. I kind of like that. And it's just like, oh, really? And how that molded him, and was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to do what these other gentlemen are doing and see if that works. And he did. I mean, one gentleman called him a player in this, like a master player. Not a player as to where you're lying to women, but someone that understands the situation that they're in, and they are an addition to it. They know how to fit in their world and adapt to get exactly what they want, kind of like how being honest as well. And I really do like that. And when you hear people still talk about him today, especially people that dated him, that really comes true. You can really see where they're coming from when they're talking about him. And I gotta say, one of my favorite parts of this first episode was hearing another artist that worked with Tupac in his early days by the name of Ray Love. I've never heard of him before, but it was in some way that he really broke it down that just stood out to me. Talked about how they tried to sell crack at certain points in their life, and they was the worst crack dealers on the planet. They just didn't know what they was doing, but they knew early on that this was not a good way out for them or to survive. And that really stood out to me. And he went on to talk about that they knew about capitalism, and how capitalism relied on you having a very low level of empathy towards people around you. And that just wasn't Tupac. He just cared about people. And I have a big heart too, and Tupac had a big heart. And it's just like that, the only way it can work is if you just don't give a damn. And that really just speaks on his character and make me respect him even more than I already do. Now, this next part right here, which kind of goes into some of the criticisms that I had about this first episode, because it makes you feel like you should already know about Afeni Shakur, because after he is doing all these raps for Ray Love and they're getting to know him, he eventually met his white manager, Layla. And I say white manager because he said it in the documentary as if that was important. We need your whiteness to help open up doors for us black men. And I can say that that was possibly very, very necessary at the time, but he felt so comfortable around Layla. And she talked about a time that she was not only just a manager, that she was a parent, and that Tupac was comfortable talking about all of the problems and the struggles that his mother, Afeni, had while trying to raise him and bring him up. But they don't really go into the details of what exactly happened to her. That's just some history that you're going to have to know. She was addicted to drugs and was dealing with all of these problems, but I don't know all the details still after watching this first episode. But I still like the way his mother would just guide through life, like, hey, I'm curious about this drug. And he's like, oh, well, I did it. This is what happened to me when I did it, and I don't think you should do it. And so don't do it. I like that. I like that. He was in pain, but he would hide behind a smile. And, you know, he never really did seem unhappy any time I saw him, any depiction of him. But we also have a Black Panther veteran by the name of Blood that was coming in to go to bat for Afeni Shakur, just saying that all of the stuff that she went through in life, she needed therapy, and her being addicted to crack and all the pain that she went through. But they just kind of talked about it. I was kind of saying, okay, like what exactly happened? And was this because of men? Was it because of this? Was it because of the system? Was it because the Black Panthers were annihilated by internal beef and the FBI infiltrating them? I know the stories to somewhat, but if I had no idea, again, I can imagine myself having a number of questions. But Tupac was an open book, and I love how they got into that as well. And Ray Love just did not feel as comfortable as Tupac did, getting very intimate and all the details of the things that he was going through. Wrote the very beginning of a song, like the first line or two, didn't like it, didn't want his personal business out there, threw it in the trash can. Tupac's like, oh man, what are you doing? This is fire, this is rich. Let me try to do something with this. And then how they had the voice come over of Tupac rapping the song, rapping the lyrics as the camera is going down the page. And then Afeni Shakur coming at the end with her voiceover as well, talking about all the pain she went through. I'm like, man, this documentary is serious. I'm loving this. And I'm just breaking down every word, every detail, just soaking it in like, wow, this is amazing. I've heard of this man all of my life, but just knew he was deep, but did not know he was that deep. You know, I kind of feel silly and embarrassed that this is kind of new to me now, to be honest with you. But it was also sad, just them talking about how they raised themselves. They were key latch kids and only felt that school was a place to keep them busy while their parents were at work. Tupac going to school all day, and then afterwards he's working 8 hours a day at the pizzeria. And that's what grown people are supposed to do, not children. And he still can't barely make ends meet. I mean, this is going to piss you off, make you angry. And like, why are we still poor? Why am I doing all this? This does not make any sense, and we have to have a change. But this next portion here, I love how they're talking about the Black Panther Party and how the members at the time were just perceived as radicals with a bunch of guns. And it was not just that. It was about their education too and what they wanted to do with the community. One of the old veterans by the name of Jamal is coming through talking about how he joined the party at a very young age, and he did not really have an ideology or knew what it meant within the Black Panther Party, that he was just angry because they killed Kennedy, they killed Martin Luther King, and they killed Malcolm X, and he wanted a way to retaliate, and I guess in the healthiest way possible. And that's where the Black Panther Party was. Kind of tricked into thinking like, okay, he's going to get a gun and go around just blowing away white people. But he was tricked into saying, okay, hey, I thought you was going to load me up, man. He was like, I am. But I have a bunch of books right here that I want you to read and that you can learn and get your education that way. This was also being taught by Afeni Shakur and just tied in of how she was part of the movement and shaped it all. Now, I spoke about the name Shakur earlier and the origins of that, but as Afeni had a very high position in the Black Panther Party, which was unheard of because there was sexism in the Black Panther Party too, is that she put together the 10-point program that's very important. You can Google that. And Afeni's sister Glow ended up meeting Labumba Shakur because Afeni was like, hey, you know, this is my husband. I'm going to be his second wife. And it's like, oh, what's going on with that? But this part about Labumba Shakur was quite interesting. They didn't like drugs, and he'd come up with acupuncture to help, heal people in the neighborhood. And they even got together that would just, go kick doors in to trap houses and throw drugs away, flushing down the toilet, etc. They wasn't a part of any of that. But it was just also impressive that Afeni Shakur, she wrote the first patient bill of rights. Just like, wait, it was some girl that had sickle cell and just was like, hey, at this hospital, no matter what people do deserve to get treatment, they do deserve to get healed, whether they have insurance or not. And again, she wrote the first patient bill of rights. And apparently that's in like every hospital or medical field now. I'm just like, whoa, I had no idea this was true. Now, if you think about it, with Tupac being around Labumba Shakur and his mother Afeni Shakur and all of these Black Panthers, all of these people that he can look up to, it just really makes sense to why Tupac was the way he was and so conscious and then just so unapologetic about everything. I mean, he couldn't help it. He was a product of his environment. Man. And this next portion was just some things that I just was not aware of in his involvement with Digital Underground, with Chopmaster and Shock G. I remember the songs and all of that, and sing them or rap to them and bob my head when I still hear them today. And I was doing that when I was watching this first episode too. But it was just quite nice that his work ethic of Tupac, he was one of the hardest working men in hip hop at the end of his days and at the very beginning. He wanted to pull his weight when he was in the group, going to Chopmaster and be like, okay, what do I need to do? How can I help make everything better so I can be put on? I'm trying to help, but I'm trying to make it myself. And Chopmaster was like, hey man, I can't do nothing but respect that. And of course, we all got pieces of his personality with old video footage of them getting ready in hotels and Shock G trying to get his fade together. I mean, I loved it all. Just showing the images of NWA and Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, Eazy-E, all of them together, very, very young, taking these photos that just really bring a lot of things to light that maybe some people knew, but not a lot about Tupac's life and legacy. And he would always listen to all types of music. These people that were close to him saying every time they saw him, he was working or had a pen or paper in his hand. I mean, he had blunts too, but he was working, getting these ideas, writing them down, wanting to be the best version of himself. And they blew up at the time. They blew up, and one of his colleagues' friends was like, okay, you need to open up a bank account, put your money in there and start watching it carefully. And this is where the majority of the world got to know Tupac, the activist, on TV, of how he went through police brutality, and he just wasn't having it. Now, there can be a lot of respect given to Tupac in the way he handled the situation, but Black people especially, we have to look at all of these things that happened in this first episode, that happened in history, see where all of these important figures, what did they do to succeed, what made them powerful, what made them strong, but what were the things that they could have done better, what was the mistakes that was made, where were the cracks at, in the dam that we can fill up so where we will not repeat the same mistakes from the past and that we can finally get justice one day. Those are the things that I'm just kind of looking at when I'm watching this, and how what he went through with police brutality. I didn't even know that he got alopecia from getting beat on, that his hair wouldn't grow back. And that was one of the reasons why he was shaving his head. I had no idea. I just thought that was a new style that he wanted to do, but because he had alopecia from getting beat by the police, that's just crazy. And I love the way he stood up for himself, wanting to, and we're just like, look, enough is enough. I'm sick of this. This is not right. And at this point, all of the rap that he did was not from himself. It was from his peers, his surrounding people that he grew up with. But this was the first time that he actually went through some type of police brutality. And that really just shaped and molded him until we're like, oh, no, we are just not going to have this. I'm going to put my foot down. I'm never going to stop fighting, whether I do it on TV, through my lyrics, through my rap, through my words, whatever. You know what I'm saying? We're going to get some justice. And I love at the very, very end where they finally reveal Afeni Shakur, and she's talking, and she says she remembers the last time that she tried to spank Tupac to where she swung at him, but he stopped it and didn't hit her back. But it was just like, okay, look, I am not going to let anybody beat on me anymore. No, it's not going down. And that's how the first episode ended. And I'm just like, man, this was crazy. I loved it. Had one of his greatest hits exiting with the credits as well. I thought it was perfect, other than that little criticism I spoke of earlier. But I love this first episode called Panther Party for the documentary Dear Mama, this 5-part series. I think this is great. I cannot wait to watch episode 2. So let me know what you thought in the comment section below about my commentary about the episode, what you were excited for, if you learned anything that you did not know before. I'm curious. I'm going to be chopping it up with all y'all in the comment section. But guys, that is just my opinion, and I want to thank you so much for tuning in. If you did enjoy this video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe, help me reach 50,000 subscribers. And for real, let me know what's going on in the comment section and click right here for episode 2, and I will be watching the whole series and give you a whole review of that as well. But guys, again, I just want to thank you so much for tuning in. And before you go, don't forget that my name is Brandon Keith Avery, and that's just my opinion. Peace.